Recently, a radio station out of Atlanta, V103, I think it is, had KMichelle in. She's evidently a recording artist and stars in a show called Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. I've never seen the show and I've never heard any of her music. I didn't even know who she was. Let me just be honest. But I got over a dozen requests from my audience that I take a listen to the interview and that I respond. And before I could even do that, there was a second interview that featured YouTube Derrick Jaxn in it with KMichelle and this host Frank, whatever his name is, and whatever the call. I don't know these people. I just whatever. But I listened to it, and I had to go back and listen to it again. And I was pretty horrified at what I heard. And I think I was somewhat disappointed in the fact that these are men that have, a platform. They have a platform, but their views and their understanding of what that young woman was telling them was so just ridiculous and just totally lacked understanding. Well, let me just go into it. I don't want to just jump ahead here. So let me start by showing you what she said. And it was a little bit of preamble to it because the host was interacting. He introduced Mr. Jaxn and was, kind of referencing the fact that he had a lot of male haters. And so he responded, that was kind of subjective and whatever. And the host asked him, well, why do you think the guys don't like you? And he said, because these men need to fix themselves. They have work that they got to do, but they don't want to do it. And so they get mad at him. Okay, now keep that in mind. And the very first sentence out of his mouth at the very first part of this interview, he made a very important statement that he later backtracked from. And I was like, dude, wait, what happened? To you telling dudes that they have these issues and they need to step up and make some changes. Okay, so we go on, so then they showed the clip from the first interview where KMichelle was saying that she didn't think that men were good people. And she said, all men, I don't think they're good people. So then, she went on to explain, as is here in the slide, why she believes that. And the instance of say that they're going to cheat. They decide, even though they know this is going to destroy the woman that they love, it's going to break her heart. It's going to make her upset. He risks giving her a disease, bringing home a baby, bringing home a psycho woman who decides that she wants him. I mean, none of that matters. They don't think about the loss of their family, the divorce that may happen, how it's going to impact their children, how their parents are going to be discussing with them. They think of none of that. None of that. In that moment, all he's thinking about is himself and his flesh and how he wants to do what it is he wants to do. Okay, so when you have somebody like that, and this is a vast majority of men, even the ones who haven't cheated yet, are on websites and they're sending people DMs and doing all this stuff, trying to cheat. So it's like when you look at that overall, there's no man walking down the street who just trips and falls into somebody's body. Well, I'm trying to clean my language up here, but you know what I'm saying. None of that happens on an accident. It's not a trip and fall situation. You intentionally did everything that you needed to do to get to that point, to cheat on the woman that you made a promise, a commitment to cheat on those children, to all the vows that you took, all the agreements that you made. You totally lift them all in the smoke and just gave no fucks at all because you were doing what you wanted to do in that moment. So then she goes on and talks about how she's, all over the country when she's touring, which she's been doing for 5 years, she said. She, has dozens of women coming up to her to crying and talking about their man. Okay, now you know how long I've been doing what I've been doing. I'm doing this more older than she is old. And it's the same story. And see, your platform is national, mine is international. And everyone, women who can't even speak English are writing to tell me about how trifling their men are and how they beat them and cheat on them and do all kind of egregious things to them. Worldwide, there is a pattern of male behavior that is negative to the lives and safety and wholesome mental and emotional state of women. I don't care what anybody says. You can pick up any newspaper, go on any website, look at any news channel platform, what they call it, portal, and you will see dozens and dozens and dozens every day of stories of violence against women, assaults against women, murders against women disappearing, sex trafficking, all kinds of stuff that where men are targeting women to hurt and use them. Okay, so what she's saying is a fact. But what I noticed about these guys, they didn't address that. Oh no, they just totally glossed over that. Instead, they jumped into the typical black male defensive posture. Well, it's not all men. It's not all men. How can you say it's not? You know, this is all men. You're making generalized statements. So she got on Mr. Jackson saying, "Well, you know, you think all of them are bad except for you." I thought that was pretty funny, but he said, he did valid, he said that, he acknowledged her feelings and stuff, but then he went off on this tangent and started talking about kids in Chicago or some crazy stuff about people's kids or whatever, and then wandered on back through East Asia back to the topic. And by then I'm looking at this video like, what did you just talk about, from mumbling around for all the minutes about nothing? That don't have shit to do with what she's talking about. Kids in Chicago, what? So anyway, he says, well, we can speak on things that we're doing wrong in terms of us holding us accountable. But when you say all men are bad, you're almost giving them a pass to continue being bad, and that I'm not for. Okay, now, she luckily piped up and said what I would have said, very well, something similar, is that, she doesn't have the power to give them a pass. They give themselves a pass. And by saying that women give them a pass, this once again passes the baton of responsibility for male behavior to women. I don't know if he realized that's what he did, because he got on the host about doing that same thing later. But you did it yourself, dude, right here. By talking about all the stuff that you said, talking about she's giving them a pass. How is a woman pointing out the toxic behavior that men have towards women and saying that it's bad, and saying, look, it's bad behavior? How is that giving them a pass to continue being bad? They're going to do what they want to do. They grown. That's how they got to the position that they're in right now. That's why they have so many damaged women in their wake, because they do everything the fuck they want to do. So for you to flip around and try to say that that's women's fault and women are giving them a pass for being bad, no woman cares what they do. Just go do it over there somewhere. Nobody wants to be bothered with you acting like that. And when you see thousands and thousands, and the point that I'm in, since I've been doing this for 30 years, it's in the hundreds of thousands, if not over a million, when I consider because I used to do advice columns every week. And there would be 60 to 70 questions in each one. Okay. And then, not to mention the radio shows, and I did TV here in the Bay Area for years. And so when you put all that together, I'm sure it's over, millions of women that I've had contact with about their relationships. And they're all, these men, something's wrong with y'all. Something is truly wrong with you. The whole male gender has issues when it comes to women. Do I blame religion? In great part, I do. Because that programs men's minds to think that they're automatically superior because they're XY chromosomes or something. Even to the point where now they decide that they want to be women, and we just have to accept it. So what can I tell you? That's just male. That's their attitude about women. We're going to do what we want to do to you, and there's nothing you can do or say about it. That is their overwhelming attitude, and it's been that way since I was a little girl, ever since I used to watch my aunts and my mother's friends and my friends at schools, moms and dads and stuff. And it's always been that way. Black men just have an issue when it comes to women. Okay, so then he's talking about, well, if you act like this, you're not gonna attract a good man. You're gonna what's gonna make him want to stay around. And she was very polite, because I was like, who gave a fuck? But she didn't say that. But she did say, who cares what attracts him? And that's very important for women to understand, because you should not live your life worried about attracting a man. Men will come to you because the wind blew west to east. They don't need a reason to approach you. If you smile at them, here they are with their dick in their hand thinking, that something about to jump off. So you don't have to worry ever, not 1 second of your life, about changing anything about yourself to attract a man, because there's always going to be at least 500 of them interested in you at any one given moment. Okay, you just have to make yourself known to them, and then of course you have to screen them out, the ones that you don't want to be bothered with. But as far as getting a man interested in you, that is not a problem at all. No woman I've ever met has had a problem getting a man interested in her. It's the right man, yes, but that's the work that you have to do. You don't, you can't just put out like a, dinka dinka dink like Bewitched, and this magical man is going to appear the way that you want him. It doesn't work like that. You're going to get some of every kind of fool walking the face of the earth because he's interested, he's attracted to you because, you're funny or you're interesting or, you're cute or whatever is his thing. He big booty. I mean, whatever it is he likes, he's going to be all over you for that thing. And so don't you ever, not 1 second, worry yourself about attracting a man. So she told him, yes, she got some walls up. She got walls up, and that if the guy's not going to be man enough to climb it, then he need to stay on the other side of it. And I feel exactly the same way. If you are a woman who has purpose and you're determined and you have a strong personality, you're driven, you're smart, you're educated, you know who you are and where you're going in life, you're not going to be swayed by every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes jumping up in your face. If you have what they call walls up, it is because you are waiting for the right man, the man with the strength and the courage and the determination and the focus to win your heart, to climb that wall, just like the prince did with Rapunzel. I hate to use a fairy story, but you know what I'm talking about. He had to figure out a way to get to the princess, and he figured it out. And that's the same way any man who loves a woman, really loves her and really wants her, he's going to see, well, she's got some walls because she was some knuckleheads around here that hurt her, but I'm going to break that shit down because that's my baby. And she got to be with me. Okay, and if he don't have that kind of attitude, then fuck him. Just go let him go there somewhere with his weak ass. Don't nobody want that fool. So I'm sitting there listening to this, and I'm just rolling my eyes like in total disbelief. Okay, so then, they talked about Fantasia a little bit. They went on to talk about some relationship that she's in. That was irrelevant. But then the host starts piping up. Now, this guy is a nut job. I'm like, who gave him a microphone? He should stick to playing music and not respond to any questions about male-female relationships because his mind is like in 1212 BC or something. I was just appalled. And so, he's sitting up there and he's trying to call himself, explaining what Jaxn was saying. And he's like, well, I think what he's trying to say is if you want a relationship, does that attitude create the space in order to accept the good man when he comes along? And she was good. She said it might scare him, but he need to be scared. So then they're like, well, you want a man to be scared? And she's like, no, but he needs to know what he's getting into. Don't pull it out unless you're going to use it. That's when she said, I started crying. I was rolling. But, I understand what she's talking about. You a black man in America with a black woman. You cannot be weak, little punk, someone everything to be all easy. Dude, if you can't even overcome a little bit of resistance from a woman who's been hurt, your ass is a punk. Don't no black woman have no use for you because you're going to be useless trying to fight white supremacy. Oh, you just are a joke. Just get out of my life, get out of my face, get out of my view. I don't want you to breathe no air that I'm breathing. I want you to just go away. We need soldiers. We need warriors. And part of it is that's how a woman is going to test you to see exactly what you're made of. If you can't even overcome that little bit of resistance that she has to making sure that you really are who you say you are and you really are focused on her and you really want this like you claim you do, then you just a little bitch. Get out of here. Go somewhere. And so these guys were all like, you should make it easy for us to get to you. You shouldn't have walls up. You shouldn't be like that. And so, okay, I'm looking at that. I'm rolling my eyes. So then here come the host. Like I said, this guy, man, I just want to reach through to the monitor and just choke him. So he's like, well, I think at the end of the day, women have a lot of power. it's terrible to hear you talk about how those feelings are toxic and you don't think anything can be done about it. No, because it's not up to her to get rid of her toxic feelings. It's up to the man who's going to come along and save her from those toxic feelings. The dude who's going to come to her so correct, so right, and so proper, she's going to drop those defenses because they will be useless against him because he won't be triggering any of her buttons. And that's the part that these dudes just don't get. They want everything to be easy. They want to just come in the door and you just be like, oh, hi, just welcome. Just, here's the keys to the kingdom. Just take everything. Take all of me. I'm just here, just waiting for you to come, my king. That's what they want. And that's some fantastical, imaginary, fairy tale bullshit, dudes. You need to get over that. You want a real woman. You want a woman who's down for the struggle, who's gonna fight toe to toe against all this other stuff, and help protect your kids in your house. You need a damn soldier, and those are the only ones who are gonna have those kind of boundaries up and who's going to make you work to get her heart. You want some old easy booty, then go get it. But don't be complaining to the women who aren't easy, who do have standards and who do have boundaries established to protect themselves from bullshit ass men. Then you don't complain about her and say that her boundaries are toxic. I was just amazed at what I heard, that double talk rhetoric flipping stuff around to make it try to be her fault that these men hurt her and that she's protective of herself now. Somehow that's her fault, and she shouldn't be like that because it makes it harder for the next dude. Who gives a fuck about him? Oh my God, I'm telling you guys, I was just terrible. I was just too through. So then this host, he continues, right? He's continued talking about, I believe women have power to motivate men to do whatever they want. So here go that magical thinking, right? That, he's like a puppet on a string and some woman's going to make him be this great thing and make him overcome these problems and make him be the man that he should be. Motherfucker, what do you do for yourself? Okay? Why is it that you think a woman is supposed to stop doing what she's doing for herself to divert her energy to you to make you be anything? Be that on your own. That's what manhood is about. You depending on a woman to change you and make you be something and motivate you and instruct and guide you and all this kind of stuff. What the hell is that? You're just a child. Don't nobody want you with that mentality. And any woman who would get what you want to put in all that work for you to do all that stuff to develop you and bring you along is a dummy. Okay, she wasting time. She could be a rocket scientist or something in the energy, the time she's spending in trying to develop you into manhood. Please. I mean, I know y'all be doing that, but I'm telling you, that's a stupid thing to do. And so then he's like, when you look through history, women have caused more wars on this earth than anybody. No, it wasn't women that caused the wars. It was men's greed that caused the wars. Men's jealousy, men's sexual possessiveness. That's what caused the wars. Don't be trying to put that on us. You wanted to possess the pussy. You wanted to own it. So you were willing to go to war and kill people and take over whole countries and stuff to get it. That was y'all. That's what y'all do. Women just be living our lives, just doing what we do. And you want to control something and own it and possess it and everything. So that's why you go to war. That is your fault. That's your decision. Okay, trying to flip it. Everything that came out of the number one host, I call him the number one host, the main host dude. I think his name was Frank something or other. Every single thing that came out of his mouth was making women take responsibility for his fucking ass. I was too through. And then he says women know how to manipulate men. And so at least Derrick did pipe up and say, well, that ain't it, Frank. But then he got talked over. So this guy says, I'm saying it's confusing for me is that women are magical manipulators, he says. They can manipulate situations in men because they get into the emotional things that men be tripping about. Okay. Now, you know how the master manipulators of the world are sociopaths, narcissists. You know who's narcissistic? Men. You know men are the biggest manipulators on this planet. They manipulate people out of money. They scam. They're con artists. They manipulate women out of their bodies, out of their money, for places to stay. They manipulate through lies and deceit all damn day worldwide. So I don't know what this new dude was talking about, but everything that came out of his mouth, like I said, was designed to try to make women responsible for their own pain. That's what his goal was. Well, if you have these magical powers, which was his theory, right? Women have magical powers. And that's not proven, and that's irrelevant, and it's silly because no one human being has magical powers. So his whole premise was based on some unbelievably false rhetoric. Okay, but he takes his false rhetoric and then he expands on that and builds on it with his, story and his belief that women can, motivate men to do anything that they want them to do and inspire a man and all this stuff and make him change and make him want to be with her. And, he was just single and doing what he wanted to do. And then he meets this woman and suddenly he changes and it's because of her. In his mind, it's because of her. No, silly young man. What happened is that guy finally grew up. That's what happened. He got ready. A switch flipped. And he finally got to the point where he doesn't want to do that anymore. He wants to do grown man stuff now, not childish things. He's finally reached a point where he wants to get a partner and he wants to build something. Now, unfortunately for most black men, this happens way too late in life. Okay, so they done dustied up through their life through in their 40s, and now they talking about they want to settle down. No, you're old and you're crusty. Somebody want to have a baby, they don't want to have one with you. Your baby might have birth defects and shit. Your ass is old. The baby gonna come out all wrinkly and crispy and dusty looking. No, we don't want that. So I was just looking at this like, you guys have to go back and listen to this video with a critical ear like I did. Don't just listen to the words, listen to the message behind the words and what he was trying to get you. Get women to believe and get the male listeners to believe too. Because he's trying to make it say like if a man decides he wants to meet you and marry you, that's you did something to him. Somehow it's your fault. It's something you did and so then if he gets with you and then he's under this magical spell, right? And then the magical spell that he thinks that you put on him lifts and then he decides to cheat. Well, if that's your fault because the magical spell wore off. That's essentially what he was saying. Nothing about taking responsibility for where you put your ding-a-ling and the decisions that you make with your life as a man, the commitments that you make, the lies that you tell, and the lack of trust that a woman can have in you because you dip and dodge and act like a fool, irresponsible jerk all over the country. That's what you do. And that's what he was proposing on this microphone on this radio show. And I was just shocked and appalled. It's like no wonder black men are all fucked up in the head. They have guys like this on the radio telling them that this kind of stupidity and immaturity and lack of accountability and responsibility and lack of integrity is okay. That is, it's fine because, you only had those things because this woman had this magical spell on you. That's how that happened because she's a magical manipulator. That's essentially what he was saying. So I'm just like, I'm telling you, I was sitting at this, listen to this shit like unbelievable. I don't know why KMichelle doesn't get up and throw her microphone on the floor and just walk out because it was the stupidity level was just way too high for anybody to tolerate. And but she did get in his ass, like, you're supposed to be the head of the household and you're supposed to be the head and stuff. How is it that you think I could make you do anything? You're supposed to be standing on your own 2 feet. And she's right. How can you do that and claim, I'm the leader, I'm the head, you need to submit to me and all the shit that they like to talk. And you're going to turn right around and blame a woman for everything that you do. Every time you hurt her, it's something you're going to flip it around. So somehow it's something that she did or didn't do. And that's why you did what you did. But you want somebody to submit to you and you want to be like the head and stuff. No, you don't get to do anything like that. You need to go in the corner and stand over there like a 5-year-old because that's the way that you're acting. That's what you're acting. So then they had this rude caller calling a female on the show, battered women, and just acting a fool. I don't know why they didn't hang up on his idiot ass country bumpkin idiot and talking about, I'm married. So, and she like jacked him up. It's like, what, you want a brownie cone? You want some cookies? I mean, what, you want a round of applause? What? Because you married, you don't get no chips for that. And so, he was like wearing it like it was a badge of honor. Well, because I'm married, I have more authority in this conversation. I can tell you single people what to do because I'm married. I was like, oh, hang up the phone. If that had been my shit, I would have hung up. It's like, you stupid. You got to go. Bye. And, but anyway, she started talking about something about a 1%, and she mentioned Jesus and Obama. I guess she was trying to make jokes, but I was like, okay, you should have known not to do that with these idiots there because they was going to take it and run it with it, and sure enough, they did. And so, I'm sitting there rolling my eyes waiting for that part of the show to be over. And, but anyway, in the end, the guy was talking about, the host rather, is saying that if a woman puts out like this certain, he called it her aura. If her aura is only going to attract a man who thinks he can deal with you, well, of course. I mean, what? Are you saying it's like this is some kind of like great psychological revelation that you just thought of? Like, yo, the ass is nigga startle or something? What in the world was he thinking? I was like just rolling my eyes so hard. And so he says, your aura is only going to attract a certain man. Women have to understand you're only going to attract what you put out. So if you want something different, you have to learn to within to put out something different. Luckily, Derrick redeemed himself and he shot that shit down. Just so I was glad he did that. Because he told him, I don't believe that because, good, bad, ugly, we're going to attract good, bad, ugly. And that's exactly true. Because when you look at that law of attraction thing from my perspective, it's assuming that you are the only one in the situation that's doing anything. That the other person is powerless, that you're this giant magnet, like, like on they show on Star Trek was, some planets pulling them off of their trajectory into its orbit or whatever they used to say. Okay, it's kind of like that mentality, like you're powerless against this thing pulling you in. And that's not the way that it is. Because a lot of times, the attraction, they're looking at you because they're attracted to you for whatever it is they think they can use you for. If there's a benefit that they perceive that you have, you're going to be easy to manipulate, easy to control, easy to dominate, easy to game on, whatever. So they're attracted to you because they see vulnerability there. You haven't attracted anything. You just living your life doing what you do. But they are, being the predators that they are, they're on the hunt. And when you have people that are on the hunt, they're going to always be looking for prey. So it's not that you attracted them, okay? No, any more than an antelope attracts a wolf. It just happens because you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so here you go. That's what that is. But, so he, like I said, he did somewhat redeem himself with that. But then he closed out, at least the part where that was the last part I saw on the clip. She was talking, he referenced her dude that she'd been with all the time and said, well, she's allowing him to continue to be in her space and you haven't risen the value in your space to make the guy who comes into your life earn it. Okay, now juxtapose that against the very first century, because they were giving her a hard time, right, about her aura and her blockages and all this kind of stuff. But then it says you have to make the guy earn it. Okay, well, how do you do that then if you don't have some challenges for him to overcome to get to your heart? Please explain to me what kind of double talking, circular nonsense these dudes was talking. Do you guys understand what I'm saying here? If not, let me break it down. First, she says she has these blockages because she's trying to protect herself. She doesn't want to get hurt, right? So she's not trying to entertain knuckleheads. She's trying to like weed them out. And she has this belief that, there's blah, blah, not the really the good men out there, like 1%. That means she still has hope. That 1% is her hope, okay? She hasn't completely given up. She's got that 1% of hope still alive. So that means, though, that she, like she said, she wants the dude to be scared. He needs to know what he's in for. She said that as part of the interview. That means she's not going to go easy. She wants a dude to prove himself worthy. He needs to climb the wall that she put up. She said that too. So they were talking about, you don't need to do it, you need to do it. But then at the very end, he says that you have to make the dude that comes into your life earn it. How is he going to do that? Is she going to do that if she doesn't have some walls up, some obstacles for him to maneuver and jump over and to become a winner in the game to her heart? Please, how does that work? I'm telling you, I just never heard so much bullshit in my life. So anyway, to sum things up, what did I hear in this video? I heard Derrick Jaxn admit that men need to fix themselves. That was his first sentence on the interview. That they have work they need to do, but they don't want to do it, which is why they get angry at him. Okay, now, since he's aware of this, why such dismissiveness about that woman's complaint, KMichelle? That the vast majority of men need to fix themselves to be suitable for a relationship. Why the defensiveness and say, this is not all men thing, when you know that it is the overwhelming majority? Okay, maybe it's not 100%, but it's 99.9%. And you know this, and I'm going to prove it at the end of this video. So then she pointed out, right, that she's interacted with thousands of women over the times, that she's been on her tour, and all these women crying and talking about how broken their hearts are, this dude's dogging them out and all this stuff. But did you notice that through that interview, they didn't address that, the widespread dysfunction of black males nationwide? They never touched on that. What they did instead was kept putting the focus back on her. So it became a personal attack, which is just like they do online. They don't, when we're talking about an issue, we're talking about an issue. It could be national, it could be global. But they don't do it, they don't address that because that would be overwhelming for their little intellect. What they do instead is try to make it be about you. And then they say, well, no, who hurt you? And that's, you need to choose better. So they always want to make it a singular issue when we're talking about millions of women. We're not talking about one, and we're definitely not talking about ourselves. So I was like, wow, this is kind of amazing. And so then, like I said, the host came up with his silly theory about how women have these magical manipulative powers, and then he, put that out there as it was if it were a fact, and he arrived at his conclusions. He tried to come up with his theorems and all this stuff to try to prove his faulty logic. And I just felt like, it was 100% dusty logic. So I was like, whatever, I don't really entertain dusty logic from dusty men, whether they have a microphone or not. And then, this thing about the law of attraction crap, which I have already shot down, that women have all these magical powers and that men are mindless little creatures at the end of a marionette string. And then, they can't be accountable for themselves because, they have to shift the blame to women. And then, by some of the things that he said, it showed that he had a very little personal understanding of his own motivations as a man or the motivations of other men for why they do the things that they do. And so, the total lack of insightfulness that these guys demonstrated was just kind of shocking because, they're not, one of them mentioned, well, men do these things and why they do them. What is their goal? That would have been a much more interesting conversation than attacking KMichelle. Okay, so in this clip I'm going to show you, this is a video that I put up in May of 2018. And it talks about the 15 things that a black man, that to me, unless a man can say that he has never in his life done or said any of these 15 things, then he's not qualified. He can't call himself a good black man. You can't do that. You're disqualified from ever saying anything that uses that phrase in it, especially to call yourself that. And I admit, a lot of times guys, they get a little more mature and they change. They change later in life. Or maybe they change, stop acting a fool and treating women bad because they get tired of doing it. Maybe they had to go to jail behind it and that pulled them up real quick. Or, maybe because they find God or Allah or, something. They find something that, kind of refocuses their energy about humans and women. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. That's all great. That's wonderful. That's grand, all that stuff. But the bottom line is that still, at some point in this man's life, probably multiple times and multiple occasions, he mistreated and hurt women. So in spite of the defensiveness of the men on the show, they don't want you to say all men anything. To me, the fact that when you go through this video, you're going to see that every single man you've ever met in your life has done at least one of these things to at least one woman. So by doing that, and most of them, it ain't just one thing and it ain't just one woman. You'll see for yourself in a second. But to me, this conversation and my video, which concludes this one, I'm including it here so you don't have to go looking for it, prove without a doubt that KMichelle is 100% correct and that men are not good people. All men are not good people. And that's just the way it is. This is Deb Cooper from survivingdating.com here on the YouTube channel, Debsterism. Become a subscriber. I'll talk to you real soon.